Hello, my name is Joanna Schnurman, and I will be reading from my story, The Songbird in Her Cage, which appears in the Badass Mom anthology. Encore! Encore! The cries that beckon me to reappear on the cavernous stage are accompanied by thunderous applause, filling the ornate theater with a raucous melange of sound. I breathed deeply before taking a sip of fresh water from the crystal glass my attendant placed in my gloved hands as I exited the stage moments before. The newly installed electric theater lights gleam, illuminating the carved mahogany theater walls and the rich crimson velvet curtains separating me from the crowd of well-dressed aristocrats. Bella! The audience rhythmically begins chanting my name. One more aria. I draw in a deep breath and plaster a broad smile on my face before stepping back onto the hardwood stage, the satin of my elaborate emerald green bustled gown swooshing with every step. The stage hands heave the rope on either side of the stage, and the heavy fabric of the curtain parts with a dramatic flourish. I place my gloved hand on my chest, grazing the lace décolletage of my bodice. Dipping into a practiced curtsy, I thank the quieting crowd. I nod to the maestro, one of the golden curls that frame my face briefly bobbing out of place. It's a rare imperfection in my routine. A reverent hush falls over the crowd, and I sense thousands of eyes on me. Goosebumps rise on my skin at this sensation that has taken half a decade of performing to become accustomed to. Yet, my heart still quickens at their rapt attention. The orchestra swells as they begin the lush musical introduction. Letting my voice soar through the theater, I navigate the rich melismas of the love song I've chosen for the finale. I have methodically practiced this piece for years now, my expressions and movements carefully honed over countless hours of rehearsal. I clasp my hands to my chest as the orchestra crescendos before throwing my arms wide. A triple forte high note bursts from my lips, my own ears vibrating from the sound. As usual, the audience erupts with cheers as the note fades into silence. Dragging my gaze upward, I acknowledge the box seat belonging to the theater's impresario, my husband, Bruno Capaldi. I pull off one of my gloves and press my scarlet-painted lips to the moon-white skin of my palm before blowing a kiss to his imposing form, shadowed at the edge of the box. His portly frame dominates the space as he stands and steps into the light, removing his top hat. He nods shallowly so as not to expose his thinning black hair, combed over to hide his bald pate. He gestures behind him, ushering in a small girl who bounces into the box with exuberance. Her golden curls are trussed up in bows that bounce with every movement, shining under the lights. Nanetta, my daughter, grins widely and waves down at me. I blow one more kiss to the box, and for a moment, I see what the audience sees, what Bruno wants them to see. A perfect, loving family. I smile tightly before exiting the stage one final time, already pulling the other stifling glove from my sweating palm so that I may begin to unlace the tight bodice squeezing my ribcage. I step briskly to the stagehand near my dressing room, eager to remove the layers of cosmetic and fabric confining me so completely, so that I may see my daughter before dinner. Thomas, please fetch Bess. I would like to change into my dressing gown immediately.
I'm sorry, Madam Capaldi. Master Capaldi has summoned you to his suite.
Thomas stops me with his words. My husband usually spends his evenings drinking and gambling away any profit we made from the performance. What's different about tonight? I sigh in resignation before giving a curt nod. Steeling myself, I turn to the stairs that lead to my husband's private rooms.
Bravo, darling!
Bruno grips my arm and kisses my cheek wetly.
Bellissima!
But please, I told you to begin the final aria with the pianissimo crescendoing to fortissimo. Yes, my love, I choke the words out. It's the corset, it was laced too tightly. Next time I'll be better. Bruno tightens his grip on my arms, and I wince. Holding me closer, he whispers in his deep, lightly accented voice. No excuses. You want to look and sound the part of a songbird, not elephant. He releases his grip and gestures for me to sit at the foot of his long linen-covered dinner table, laden with sumptuous-looking bread, no doubt shipped here to London from his native Naples. I notice there are 3 cloches instead of 2. I look at my husband hopefully, his depthless brown eyes meeting my sapphire ones.
Si, mi amore. Nanetta will be joining us this evening.
He snaps his fingers at the stoic attendant by the door, and my daughter is ushered inside. Mama! She cries, only to be silenced by a severe stare from Bruno. Sorry, Papa. Bruno grips her hand like a vice and nearly shoves her into the third bulky chair at his dinner table. Children are to be seen and not heard. I will not mention this again. I ball my hands into fists, but lower myself into my chair as Bruno's eyes meet mine again, full of silent command. Bruno's chair creaks as he does the same, a bead of sweat dripping from his top lip. The cloche on each of our plates is removed with a flourish by the attendant, and I frown at my meal. A small portion of roasted vegetables from our hothouse. Again.
Bella, my dear.
Bruno's sharp voice punctuates the silence, garbled by a bite of rich, gravy-laden roast beef.
It's a shame to see such an ugly expression on such a beautiful face. You must smile.
But, darling,
good seamstresses don't come cheap, and I'll not pay to have them let out your dresses and costumes because you have no self-control.
A dribble of gravy slides from his elaborate mustache as he spits his reply. Of course not. How could I have been so silly? I spear a green bean onto my silver fork, hoping this is enough to avoid a conflict.
Indeed, you'll give our Nanetta all sorts of ideas. No wonder she speaks so brazenly without permission, he grumbles before returning to his meal.
Our Nanetta. Our Nanetta? I grit my teeth, choking back the words that threaten to escape from my lips. I reach over to Nanetta, my beautiful girl, and run my fingers along her golden curls. She grins at me, exposing a few gaps where her teeth have fallen out. She's growing so fast, and I'm running out of time. My dear, speaking of Nanetta, I worry that her gowns are falling out of fashion. I speak softly and peer through my lashes at Bruno. Why, I saw Lady Martin's daughter tonight wearing Chantilly lace. I'm afraid that Nanetta's dresses look drab in comparison. With the Queen's Gala coming so soon. Bruno's face reddens until his doughy face is almost purple. He cannot stand the thought of being looked down upon as an outsider in the aristocracy, and the Queen's lavish birthday gala will be an important event for the theatre. Our image is always perfectly maintained. I, the ingenue discovered among the young ladies in a rural British conservatory by Signor Capaldi, the master musician and impresario of the little-known Capaldi Theatre. After he found me, I performed lead roles for his theatre, drawing increasing numbers of high-class aristocrats with each recital and opera performance. He sculpted me into a prima donna, and we fell in love immediately. Our darling Nanetta was born not even a year later. From student to prima donna, wife, mother, and toast of the town. A fairy tale story with as much truth as a fairy tale indeed. I know that Bruno won't dare risk a crack in that gleaming facade.
Well then, take her for a fitting at once.
He scrambles clumsily from his chair, drawing up the sole key to his safe from a long silver necklace he wears underneath his frilly white shirt. My eyes narrow as he fumbles for his safe behind a false panel in the wall, retrieving a few coins. That won't do at all, my love. Chantilly lace is worth far more.
This had better be worth it, Bella.
He grabs a fistful of coins and crosses to me, shoving them haphazardly onto the table. Nanetta squeals from her chair, her small bowl of porridge already empty. A new dress? Thank you, Papa.
No speaking until you are spoken to, Nanetta. You are just like your mother. You never learn proper respect. Get out and go straight to bed.
Bruno clenches his jaw, no doubt upset about having to dole out more of his dwindling reserves of money. He really must stop gambling. I move to take Nanetta's hand to lead her from the room. There's still enough time for me to read her a bedtime story. There's nothing I love more than those moments I can hold my daughter close and tell her stories of adventures in far-off lands.
I did not dismiss you, Bella, Bruno says coldly as he returns to the table.
Sit. Hesitating briefly, I perch on the edge of my seat. Bruno is in one of his moods, and the only way to escape is by weathering the storm. Thank you for dinner, my love.
If you do not get your daughter under control, I will be forced to send her away to school.
He places his large hands on the arms of the chair to either side of me, penning me in. I will speak to her. I lay my hands on his, placatingly. Peering up at him with wide eyes, I silently beg him to let her stay. He can't send her away. I won't allow it. She was playing with her dolls on the catwalk above the stage this afternoon, and the stage hands have reported her running down the hallways like an absolute heathen between acts. It won't do, Bella. Bruno grits his teeth before standing and crossing to the other side of the table. It won't happen again, I promise. Please, Bruno. Trailing off, I meet his dark stare. I know what's coming next. Without me, you both would be living on the streets. When I first found you, you were pregnant and alone, wandering the streets selling little songs and picking pockets with those filthy hands of yours. I took you in and made you a prima donna, but one word from me and you will be back in the gutter with that mud of yours. Bruno's fists slam onto the table and the dishes tinkle, a crystal wine glass slipping off the edge and shattering on the floor. It's always the same threat. I close my eyes, my mind wandering to life before Capaldi swept in. I was young and alone, waiting for my lover to return to port as my belly swelled more each day with our child. My wonderful, kind Philip would never get to meet our child. Unshed tears sting my eyes as I recall the day the ship sank to the bottom of the frigid water. Without Bruno, I'd be raising Nanetta on the streets with naught but the coins I made from singing on street corners and filching unsuspecting aristocrats' wallets. Sometimes, especially on nights like this, I wonder if we'd have been better off that way. Using the theater training Bruno instilled in me, I cross the room with graceful movements. I reach Bruno and let my nimble fingers trace along his sparse strands of raven hair like they used to trace the pockets of aristocrats' coats. I press myself against his portly frame and brush my lip against his cheek lightly, whispering, I promise, my love, it won't happen again. His eyes widen and his cheeks flush. My distraction is successful. Perhaps he will forget about sending Nanetta away. You will stay in my chambers tonight. His tone has softened, and I know I've diffused his anger. He strides from the dining room without a second glance. I nod anyway, and pocket the coins he so carelessly dropped on the table for Nanetta's new dress. Half will go towards the dress, and half will join the pile I have stocked behind a loose brick in my dressing room. I smirk and saunter from the room behind him.